Good morning, everybody. We about ready to start. We got Doug. Can't start without Doug. Okay. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Before I make my usual regular official remarks, which are usually pretty focused on the serious issues we face each month, I want to start on something much, much better. We have very special guests with us today, and two former chairmen of the MTA. First, my immediate predecessor, Peter Calico, is here. Stand up, let him see you. Thank you for coming, Peter. And his predecessor, Virgil Conway. Thank you, Virgil. We also have former board members Al Wiener, Nick Nasty, and Beverly Dolinsky. Welcome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Don't you miss this place? Also with us, and the reason why Peter, Virgil, Al, Rick, and Beverly have joined us today is the second longest serving board member on this board, Barry Feinstein. Where's Barry? I can tell you from personal experience, when Barry left, it was absolutely hard to imagine the board without him. He was such a terrific board member. He was missed, is missed, and will always be missed. Barry, you were terrific. Thank you. Now, today, it's hard to imagine. It's been a year. We've never had a chance to formally dedicate and acknowledge his service while he was with us. So I'd like to call you up here, Barry, on behalf of all the past board members, to come up and present you something. But before I get to that, wait, I'm ahead of myself. I have to straighten this out. Barry has had 19 years of service, which could have been the longest, but since Al Wiener is here today, Werner was here today, we had to recognize that he was the longest serving board member with 23 years on this board. So we are 100% accurate. Barry joined the board of May 8, 1989 and served in May of last year. So Al, we recognize you as the Al. So would you come up here, Barry? On behalf of all the board members, past and present, so we can present you your board chair, which we've got hidden over here. So come on up here, and everybody stand around. I want to read the official resolution here. Need my glasses? I'm staying with the photo ops, everybody. You have to be patient. Whereas Barry Feinstein has served with dedication as a member of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority Board from May 1989 through May of 2008. Whereas Barry Feinstein contributed to the board with unique experience in labor and civic leadership. And whereas Barry Feinstein served the residents of this region as representative of the governor of the MTA Board, serving as vice chair of the Capital Oversight Program. And whereas Barry Feinstein served the residents of New York City as chair of the New York City and whereas Barry Feinstein worked diligently as a member of the Finance, Interagency Coordination, Governance, Safety, Security, Capital Construction, Planning, and Real Estate Committees, he played a valuable role in his concern with fiscal responsibility and customer service. And therefore, be it resolved that the members of this board of the Metropolitan Transportation and its subsidiaries and affiliates extend to Barry Feinstein their appreciation and gratitude for his devotion to improving the region's transportation network and make him an honorary lifetime member of this board with all the prerequisites of such a position. This photographer is all going to make us handsome and beautiful. So everybody gather around. Ready to open this? 1, 2, 3. Here we got the chair. A little applause. Smile at the camera. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. You guys can scoot before we do the normal business.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Beverly.
Here. Barry, put your chair right behind you. Sit or you can stand. Which way do you want to go?
I'll stand. I know I'm going to go. This is the whole point. Want to sit down? Mr. Chairman, can I speak till about 11:30?
Yes, sir, please. That way all the press will leave.
That's more than enough. It's been a year since I left the board, and I have been away from New York City for much of that time. And I really didn't want to be here to collect the chair for the last few months. You've been going through hell beyond description, and it didn't seem appropriate to me to have a happy occasion with the kind of pressure and tension and all that went with that going on. Before I say anything else, during 16 of the 19 years I've been on this board, a wonderful woman has kept my head on straight, and she's happily here with me today. Florence, where are you sitting? Someplace. She has been a major supporter, and I would bounce lots of stuff off her in talking about this place, this non-paying job, this public service job is nobody will ever understand except somebody who's done this, what this is, in fact, really about. Be that as it may, I want to thank some people. First, I want to thank Governor Cuomo, who appointed me to this position way back in 1989, or at least that's when the Senate confirmed me. But I, like many others who are serving on this board and have served on this board, was held hostage for a year or so by the state Senate while they were negotiating between themselves as what things they needed to have done. And finally, in 1989, the Senate did in fact confirm me, and I came to this board. So I thank that governor first, and then I thank George Pataki for reappointing me and reappointing me, so that over these 19 years I've served both conservative Republicans and liberal Democrats, and all the rest of those who were part of my life here at the MTA. Dan Scannell, or Scannell, if you will, was the longest continuing person at the MTA, not necessarily a board member, but he was an employee when the MTA was created and served from employee all the way through until he died on the job. And I sat at his knee for many years learning what this place was all about, and it would be inappropriate for me not to remember Dan for the work that he did for the MTA and the help he gave me during the years that I was able to listen to him and work with him. Not to say that we got along at the beginning of this, because we didn't. My view, as I hope all of the board members' view is that management is right sometimes, and that policymakers should always be the policymaker and do what they believe is correct, not necessarily what management believes is correct. There is no wealth of knowledge that is put into somebody's head simply because they become management. And I thought at the beginning of my tenure here, right through till my leaving this agency, that management would be very pleased, in fact delighted, if there was no board that would oversee ask questions about, argue with, and the like. That is the nature of this agency, and it's my continued hope that this board, as it did during my tenure, will continue to do that, ask the hard questions and insist on the right answers, and not simply agree because management wants an agreement. That's the highlight of this.
If you would please conclude your remarks.
I said to Doug that I would perform a particular act that he wanted me to perform and I would not leave without doing that to get it. For 19 years, I heard him say that in this room. I served under Bob Kiley and Peter Stengel and Virg Conway and what's the last guy's name? Where is he? Oh, there he is. And Peter Calico, and working for Virgil and Peter was really something that was beyond expectation. They did in fact change the face of this organization. They did in fact make this a labor-friendly organization. The chairman, the first chairman I served under and the second chairman I served under believed that the workforce was only a necessary tool for carrying out the policies of management, and they treated the workforce, in my judgment, poorly. And for years there were monthly fights between myself and others on the board and the leadership of this agency because of those policies. And I watched Virgil Conway deliver the first on-time contract in the railroads in the history of this organization. And he did it with glowing work-related, employer-related involvement, and that has been carried out by Peter in his years on this board, and this has now become a hallmark of the MTA. It is no longer a non-employee structured operation. It has now got the employees involved with, as they should be, the ongoing operation of mass transit. There are those in here who were not serving on this board that were of major help to me during my years. Darlene, who everybody here knows and loves, Darlene was the go-to person. Whatever needed to be done, whatever I needed to help me in my operations, I will call Darlene. And I said, listen, I don't know how to do this, but she said, don't worry about it, take care of it. And that's what she did for 19 years, and I thank her publicly for that work. As usual, she's standing next to Laura, who was as important to me in my relationship to the chairman as anybody could be. If I needed to see the chairman, I didn't call him, I called Laura. And she handled all of those things brilliantly and made my life very much more easy to get along with at the MTA. And Barry Heller, who probably very few in this room know, I guess that the only person here that would know who Barry Heller is Susan Kupferman, who is the president of the TBTA. He's an employee of hers, and Barry, I think, is in the room, is he? Not?
I'll tell him, Barry.
Okay, thank you. He drove me from place to place from time to time when getting around by public transportation was impossible. And over these years, he was vitally important to my ability to get as many things done in the course of a day as we needed to get done. Al Werner, that you've all heard about already, the longest-serving board member, and that is absolutely accurate. And I told Al he should have left a few years earlier so that I could have been the longest-serving. But he said no, Suffolk County needed him, and nobody would let him go, and so he got 23 years. Unthinkable that you could serve that long and still look good. And we did a lot of things here, and I followed in his footsteps after he left. The chairman of the MTA, upon Al's leaving, made me the vice chair of CPOC, and I carried on the work in that regard, and so on. And it is a pleasure to see Al, and I'm delighted that he's here. Rick Nasty and I go back to the days of Al D'Amato, when he worked for Al, and I met Al, and I won't tell that story. But Rick and I have been not just business associates, but friends for a whole lot longer than 19 years. And it is really a delight to have him here as a former board member. And I think it was Mario that did that as well. Appointing a Republican by a Democratic governor was one of the smart things that he did. Not that he hadn't done a lot of smart things, but that was a particularly smart move in making that happen. Jerry Gold is here. I know I saw Jerry earlier. He was the, what do we call Jerry? The independent engineer overseeing all of the CPOC business, all the construction. There he is, hiding over here in the back. Jerry, I cannot tell all the stories or even any of the stories about the work that you did, the task forces that were commissioned by Chairman Calico on serious matters that you worked on with myself and others that we selected to be on a task force. And each of those task force reports that was produced under your engineering prowess stand tall today in the way an agency in government should do those studies that are required to see whether or not the people who were supposed to do the right thing did in fact do the right thing. And Jerry, you are to be congratulated for the knowledge and abilities that you brought to this job and the brilliance of the work that you performed. It was amazing how well you did with those, and every one of the things that we did over these years, even those calls that we made that said this is wrong, we should default them, this is right, we should congratulate them. All of those things we've done for years were under your direction and with your guidance in what was or was not the right thing to do. And the board should be most grateful for the work that you performed. The others that have helped me greatly here, Chris Boylan, who I saw earlier. Chris is hiding it. He's a lowly staffer. That's what I called him for 19 years, a lowly staffer. Bright, energetic, smart guy. If I needed something, if I needed to understand something, that's the guy I went to, and that's the guy that always delivered an answer to the questions that I had. And I don't have to talk about Gary DeLaverson. He's here. Nobody would be able to deal with finance in this place if Gary wasn't doing his work. We didn't always agree on a lot of stuff, but there is no denying that his abilities and what he's been having to do here, and the mirrors he's used to do it, and the cobwebs that he's walked on in getting it done have served this place well. And I commend him for being able to survive the MTA. Other than that, we have my friends on the board and all of you for so many years, some for lesser number of years, and some our newest board members are just recent vintage who I did not have the pleasure of serving with. But from the mayoral end of the world, the go-to guy for me was Mark Page. If I had questions or if I wanted to let the mayor know about something that I thought he ought to know about, I called Mark, and Mark would call me. And we would talk about very serious issues, many of which have come to be, others that failed. But Mark, I want to thank you, as well as the rest of the members of the mayor's group, for your always getting back to me, and you're always being straightforward in what you thought should be done or shouldn't be done. Not that we always agreed that that wasn't necessary. It was that we could talk to each other and we could understand where each of us were coming from. And that was, I think, the most important thing. My next to colleague, the guy I sat next to for so many years, James L. Sedor Jr., comes from some quarter-pounder place upstate. We used to say, why do we even need those guys? I mean, what, 4 of them? What is that? I would say for many a year, thank God for Jim Sedor and the quarter pounders. He was during my time here the go-to guy for me. Whatever it was that I needed to do that was outside of our normal business, I went to Jim first. He sat with me on every commission that we ever put together. He was vitally important in getting all of those things done. And if there were hard issues here that a board had to vote on, I would talk to him about those issues, and we would bounce those things off each other, and we would come to grips with making the hard decisions. And I think we made the right decisions most of the time. David and I go back a long, long way. He is the vice chairman of the MTA, as is his cohort. Andrew Saul is the finance chairman still, right? Haven't fired him yet. I don't know if that's good or bad. But Andrew and David were senior members, part of that little cadre of guys, the 4 or 5 people that would work together and scheme together and talk together before we voted on things that were of significance. And that was important to making this place operate. The lobbyist here is Andrew Albert. Anybody that represents a constituency other than the general public, I call a lobbyist. That's his view. He represents, and that's why I could never get along with him. No, that's not true. Andrew and I worked extremely well together, and he always kept the interests of the rider first and foremost in all of our arguments, and we had a lot of them, and all of our discussions. But we always managed to come to a middle ground or to make decisions. Sometimes I lost a fight, sometimes he did, but working with Andrew on behalf of his constituents was always a seriously important matter, and he did and continues to do a great job. But Nancy Chevelle is the best. Nancy was, and I guess still chairing the committees that you chaired before. I remember one of the famous quotes of the 19 years, and that was, "We don't build monuments." And she said that as they were talking about Fulton Street and the cost of a particular glass obelisk. And that was exactly right. And that was a widely quoted and accurate reflection of the way the board felt about delivering that which was our obligation to deliver, and that is mass transit that operates on time and can get you there safely, and that they have done and continue to do. And Nancy, with the major construction in this city, in charge of that committee, and with the other operational things that we discussed all the time, was significantly important to the operation of this board. And it really, it was a pleasure, and it is a pleasure to see you. The troublemaker from the Transport Workers Union, he's not even smiling. Mr. Watt and I saw Mr. Ott yesterday. Mr. Watt and I come from the same place. We have not always agreed with each other about some of the decisions that I made, or I might agree with him about some of the decisions that he made, but that he is an important part of this organization and represents 35,000, 38,000. I'm delighted to hear that. They're better off for having you. The quick story was when I came on this board, and I went to Albany to be confirmed, and they ask you questions. One of the senators said to me, "You're a labor guy. How are you going to deal with issues that come up at the board where you're talking about wage increases?" I said, "Come up with the board. We'll talk about it." He said, "Yeah, but that stuff's got to be private." So I said, "Yeah, so?" He said, "Well, you'll tell the transport workers what's going on." I said, "You mean you want me to be a board member and not deal with all the issues of a board?" He said, "Well, you shouldn't be in those kind of situations." I said, "Well, then you better not confirm me, because there's not a meeting I won't go to." And that's the way that has always been. And I have profound respect for the transport workers and the work that they do in very difficult times. They ought to be commended every day for the dangerous work that they do and their ability to have a union that stands up for them. We don't always agree about issues here and with any of the unions or all of the unions that we deal with, but I certainly understand where they come from. And with things that we can't work out, we can't. Things that we can work out, we do try very hard to do for them. In any event, to Roger and to you, the very best, and hopefully this will be a good year for the transport workers. Beyond that, I'm sure that there's something I should have said about a lot of other people, but he's telling me to shut up, and so I'm going to shut up. And simply wish you all, in a very bad year, a better second, third, and fourth quarter than you've had for the last several months. It's been a very difficult time, and I am delighted I have not had to participate in what you've had to go through with the last budget and what you'll have to go through with for the next budget. But Godspeed and good luck, and everybody hang in. Thank you very, very much.
We got to kick up first. Just scoot out this way and we'll get on to the usual stuff. We'll send your chair.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Jimmy, he's still annoyed that you took his chair.
Okay, now we're going to get down to regular business. Let me start this morning by talking about the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Let's just let him go. The 400-pound gorilla. Okay. We have had certainly an exciting 10 months, that's to be sure. But as we discussed at our special board meeting on the 21st, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And as we work with the package that was put in place and together in Albany to help us keep the wheels on the bus, It may not be quite enough, but it is what it is. We have what we have, and we will make it work. As far as the MTA leadership situation is concerned, while there remains some longer-term unknowns, there's a clear paradigm for the immediate future. First, under the new law, I will remain as chair until there is a confirmed candidate for the newly combined chair and CEO position. More specifically, Governor Patterson has personally asked me, and I have agreed, to keep this place on track and running until that time. To help me, I will be asking the board today to appoint an interim executive director, Helena Williams, who will, in conjunction with me, execute the administrative responsibilities associated with the position until such time as we have a confirmed chairman and CEO in place. This again, is an interim appointment as the governor conducts a national search for a permanent replacement. That said, I am extraordinarily grateful to Helena for agreeing to take on this temporary assignment. Thank you. Helena, I am also pleased that someone as experienced as Ray Kenny will keep the place going while you're here, working two jobs at once, both being the interim CEO and still remaining as the president of the Long Island Railroad. It's going to be a tough job, but you can do it. In this interim period, I will necessarily be much more engaged in the day-to-day business of the MTA, and I've arranged my personal business accordingly. So the message today is that there's an official structure in place at the MTA, and there will be a place for all issues to go, whether you're inside or outside the organization. Let me also assure this board that my primary mission during this time is to make sure that none of our agencies or our employees are distracted from the business at hand, putting service out on the streets for millions of New Yorkers. As far as the immediate agenda is concerned, we will by and large stay the course already set by this board, with one addition on which I ask your concurrence and cooperation. We must make sure this organization communicates even more clearly and concisely and regularly with all our stakeholders. What was obvious to me over the last few months was that despite the fact that we were hit like the rest of the national economy, that not everybody understood fully our situation. We did successfully connect this point with many audiences, particularly with the media. It's clear that we must prove and reprove again ourselves to Albany, to our riders, and to the public. Some may not think that's fair, perhaps, but again, it is what it is. I have seen the terrific people who have made this place run, whether they operate a bus or a train or a bridge, or whether they perform staff work at the agencies or here at headquarters. The rest of New York needs to see that also. But it is not just about telling our story, but it's also about earning and re-earning every day the respect of the public. So we need to take all our energies, put our heads down, and to think and act as creatively as we can, and with as positive an attitude as we can. What that means is that there's still one agenda. This is one integrated family, and we'll continue to operate as such. We will continue to move millions of people each day, and we will do so safely and efficiently, which brings me full circle back to our financial picture. It is still very precarious, and we have some very difficult issues and decisions to make in order to make it through this next year and the following one. To the staff, I'm therefore asking each and every one of you to keep your eye shades down and do the business as best you can. I don't think any of you are surprised that this board intends to be more engaged than ever in terms of what we do and how we do it. We can also expect more external eyes on top of the myriad of existing eyes watching how we operate. But none of that should matter if we're doing what we're doing well and doing it honestly. And so today begins a new chapter in the MTA story, and we're going to write it. It will not be an easy story, but I'm confident it will ultimately have positive outcome for our employees, our customers, and the taxpayers. So enough. Let's go on to our agenda. No, that's no motion yet. Doug?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have 7 public speakers. If they will all line up near the podium. Arthur Maratia, Charlton D'Souza, William Henderson, Matthew Shotkin, Joe Rappaport, Marty Goodman, and Jerry Gold. Mr. Maratia.
Thank you very much. I'm General Chairman of the TCU. I represent the Long Island Railroad station agents and ticket clerks, and effective yesterday, I'm also representing Metro North now. I'm here to speak on the station closings on Long Island. I'm happy to see train service is going to be brought back. The commuters deserve it. But you've forgotten about one very important service, and that's our customer service. These are frontline employees, our members in the ticket offices. My members don't only service the customers, we take care of the communities. Over the last few months, you've had to make some tough decisions, and I understand that. Customer service has fell to the sidelines, and that's all that's been talked about is train service. I ask this board to make an easy decision now. Bring back customer service. Bring back our 20 ticket offices. The community deserves it. Our customers deserve it. And I want to thank you.
Thank you. Charlton D'Souza.
Good evening, everyone. I live in Queens Village, and I'm with Community Board 13, and I also live in Senator Smith's district, Senator Malcolm Smith, who got you your bailout. Unfortunately, I'm here today because many Queens Village customers who ride the Q110 extension bus that runs to 179th Street subway station, they're going to have reduced service starting June 22nd. And when I came to testify before the board, they told me that they would not make the cuts if the bailout plan was passed. What I would like to know is why are the bus drivers now picking the new schedule that's going into effect on June 22nd that's going to cut 9 buses. We currently have 18 buses in the morning. With these cuts, we're only going to have 9 buses fewer. And in the evening, it's going to be the same thing. They're also running the buses on a 20-minute headway in the morning. And during the day, it's supposed to be a 15-minute headway. I am kind of outraged because Community Board 13 was not given proper notification of this. And we called Community Affairs. I have not gotten any calls back. And we were having a press conference today. A few people, couldn't show up. But during the following week that's coming up, we are going to be taking actions on the bus, and we've asked all the commuters to pay their fare in pennies to protest. If my elected senator, Malcolm Smith, could get you your bailout, and he did right by you, and I did right by you, and the people did right by you, this is not right. We will go to the federal government, we will talk to President Obama, and we will tell him not to give you the stimulus package. So please, I ask Helena Williams, please do right by us. And also Joseph Smith, please come out to our community and meet with us. I received a 4-page letter last year from Chairman Hemmendigger, and they promised to come out and meet with us, and they have not. So please, if y'all could do this, and if y'all could restore the service today, if the board could vote not to eliminate the service, and also vote to restore the cuts that were made for June 22nd. I would be so grateful. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next speaker, William Henderson, followed by Matthew Shotkin.
Like others before us, we're pleased to see that you're acting on reversing the severe cuts included in the AABB package. We continue to be troubled, however, that there's only a partial restoration of station customer assistant and booth agent positions in the subway stations. While eliminating these positions through attrition will delay the impact of these cuts, we nonetheless, this is a reduction in level service provided to riders. We recognize that the riders' needs have changed with the introduction of MetroCard vending machines and time-based MetroCards, but the booth agents and station customer assistants still provide a vital service to the customer. The proper approach to resolving issues with station staffing is to make it more effective, not to eliminate a substantial portion of that staffing over time. The immediate impact of the changes has been lessened from that of the initial proposal, but ultimately this action doesn't benefit either the system or its riders. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Shotkin.
Good morning. You know how to dress, Mr. Chairman. Andrew, your tie is very nice. There's got to be a better system of servicing elevators at the 34th Street Herald Square station, where Macy's is, with over 600 elevators out of a service during a very lengthy time period, covering a number of weeks. It really hurts commuters trying to come back and forth, going to and from work. In addition to the fact that it first comes to light in the April 20th edition of AM New York, this is totally crazy. Please try to do something about this. The solution, in my opinion, with so many subway workers either getting fired or not getting their pay raises, is to get a few more elevator mechanics at that particular station. Before I conclude my remarks today, I was very pleased to know that, or to actually hear in his opening remarks, that our very formidable Mr. Chairman is going to be staying on. He's become a true friend to me, and I would like to welcome Miss Helena Williamson to her post as well.
Thank you. Next speaker, Joe Rappaport, followed by Marty Goodman, and then Jerry Gold. Joe Rappaport.
Good morning, Chairman Hemmerdinger and MTA Board members. I'm Joe Rappaport, and the following statement is from Controller William Thompson, Jr., who couldn't be here today. Earlier this month, I joined NYPIRG Strap Hangers Campaign, TW Local 100, Transportation Alternatives, the New York City Riders Council, your own advisory council, the Women's City Club, and the Council of Senior Centers and Services in a letter that urged the MTA not to shut token booths and eliminate station agents. We wrote you because this would be a service cut that affects riders, women, older people, and everyone else who wants the safest ride possible on our subways. Riders depend on agents to act as the eyes and ears of the system. It's human nature. Those who are watched behave better. By their very presence, station agents prevent fare beating, vandalism, and worse crimes. Station agents also act in emergencies thousands of times a year. They can reach command center instantly. They're the quickest way to reach the police, fire, EMS in the subways. In fact, you tell us, when you see something, say something. You've even posted signs in many stations that say, report any immediate concerns to the station agent. If there is no station agent, where will riders go? Agents also make traveling the subways much easier. They assist riders. They give directions. Last year, New York City had 47 million tourists. We want them to take the subway. We want to make sure they're safe at the same time. You want it both ways by claiming this is not a reduction in direct service, but what else do station agents do? And by claiming that every station will have 24-hour coverage, even though passengers won't be able to reach many of the remaining open booths without leaving the station altogether, you lose credibility as well. Finally, the MTA has argued that this is a budget decision, but in 2009, you indicated savings of just $3.1 million with these cuts. While this makes sense to look for imaginative ways to save money, this is not a smart way to do it. Riders will pay $500 million more in higher fares as part of this bailout. While the MTA also says that the state agreed to this cut, riders certainly did not. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Marty Goodman, and then our last speaker, Jerry Gold. Mr. Goodman.
Hello, I'm Marty Goodman, a station agent. Unfortunately, I missed the fare hike vote last month. Instead, I attended the rally that morning by the Stelladora bakery strikers. They're calling for a boycott of Scab Stelladora cookies, and they went right to the boss's house, and I kind of like their style. I'm going to have to catch up a little bit, though. No to all fare hikes, make the rich pay. Now, apparently not yet satisfied, The MTA plans to cut 800 station agent jobs by attrition and close some 200 revenue and customer assistance booths. Now, with some of the extra bond money, I don't know what you're going to be doing, but I'll just take what I've seen in the press. Fare hikes alongside cuts aren't new. In 2003, the MTA closed 62 booths and replaced them with information kiosks. The MTA called it a service enhancement, a brazen lie. The cuts followed a 33% fare hike and an MTA promise to not cut service, another lie. When the Metro card began, transit officials said 800 clerk jobs would go. Weakening the TWU was the objective, slashing service the means. A job cut is a service cut. Labor must mobilize and smash these attacks. Mass transit could be funded in a heartbeat. The Democrats gave mass transit a puny $8 billion in the stimulus, but a record $663 billion went for war in the budget. Bloomberg services say the Bush and Obama administration bailouts totaled $12.8 trillion. It's unbelievable. We shouldn't accept a single cut, fare hike, service cut, or job cut. The layoff threat was solved on the backs of riders with additional taxes on working people. The MTA is deepening the hold of Wall Street debt on the MTA budget, already 15%. The debt should be canceled, not increased. Recently, $1.25 billion in bonds went up for sale. Forbes called it a boon for investors. That is Wall Street and the bankers.
Summarize your comments.
Restoring New York's old nickel tax would take care of the MTA debt. Just calculating on yesterday's trades, $284 million could have been raised that way, but it's Wall Street greed that prevents a balanced budget here. Lastly, last night I asked the cleaner what she wanted in our contract, and the reply was, quote, more money, I've got kids, end quote. Our contract is at arbitration and we can't vote on it. A gag order from the boss class. Wrapping it up, will there be a contract deal only after the union election? You want transparency. How about some transparency today, MTA? Where's our contract?
Our next speaker and last speaker is Jerry Gold.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I was going to read some prepared remarks that I had spoken at the CPOC committee, but I'm choosing not to. But for those that have an interest, it may be worth your while to go to the MTA archives and see those remarks. But I will open my statement the same as today I stand before you as an unaffiliated public speaker, and that means I don't represent the union. I don't represent any particular riders group. And that sort of frees me. I can feel like I'm like Diogenes. Instead of seeking the truth, I can speak the truth. And so I'm going to speak what I believe to be the truth for the next 1 minute, Doug. And that is going back to what Barry Feinstein said and what the chairman said. Barry alluded to me as the independent engineer, and one of the first special assignments we did had to do with the analysis of the restoration of the 8th Avenue subway line after the fire in January of, I believe, about 2004. At that time, President Roy, the president of the Transit Authority, said it would take 2 years to restore the work. That work was done in 4 months by the dedicated staff, the maintenance people of the Transit Authority. It was a Herculean task. They did a magnificent job, and guess what? There was no publicity about it. So I think communications is an example. And Mr. Chairman, you talked about more effective communications earlier in your remarks. And that led me to note to myself that earlier today I read in an opinion column in one of our newspapers where Anthony Weiner chose to not run to be mayor of the city of New York, and I thought that was quite an eloquent column. And so I am suggesting that maybe you can give your remarks to that newspaper to run as an opinion piece so that the message, in your own words, can get out to the greater public. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gold, and that concludes today's public speaking.
Thank you, Doug. The minutes of the last month's meeting have been distributed to all board members. Are there any corrections, omissions? Anybody want to add, subtract? Could I have a motion?
Move it.
Second. All in favor? So moved. All right, Committee on Finance. Andrew, please.
Mr. Chairman, there are 3 action items. The first action item requests board adoption of the resolution found on page 31B of the board materials. This resolution first rescinds those portions of the March 25, 2009 resolution which authorized and directed the agency presidents to implement the service changes and subway service guidelines found in Attachment A to the March 25 resolution, and which authorized the MTA officers to eliminate the Cross Bay Bridge toll rebate program. Second, this resolution authorizes revisions to the AABBs contained in the 2009 budget in order to restore the measures described in Attachment A to the resolution. I move this item.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All opposed? Nobody opposed. Next motion.
Okay. The second action item found on page 33 of the board materials requests board approval to rescind its April 29, 2009 action amending the MTA budget process and allows the MTA to return to its normal budgeting process. I move this item.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
The third action item found on page 35 of the board materials requests board approval to issue the station maintenance, billing to New York City and the counties for the period April 1st, 2008 through March 31st, 2009. I move this item.
All those in favor? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So moved.
There are no non-competitive procurements or ratifications this month. There are 3 competitive procurements in the amount of $330,000. The committee recommends these procurements, and I move them.
All those in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Andrew. And now report from the Transit Committee. Chairperson Doreen.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good
It was
morning.
great to see Barry Feinstein here today. I have very large shoes to fill and a very small foot, but I've been clumping around ever since.
You've been doing great.
On behalf of the Transit Committee, I present the following for the Board's approval. There are 12 procurements for transit totaling $42,400,000. 3 are non-competitive in the amount of $5,200,000. The committee recommends them, and I move them.
All those in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
There are 7 competitive procurements in the amount of $36,900,000. The committee recommends them, and I move them.
All those in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
There are 2 ratifications in the amount of $300,000. The committee recommends them, and I move them.
All those in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
No procurements for MTA bus this month. This concludes the report.
Thank you, Doreen. Now we have the Long Island bus. David, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Long Island Bus Committee met this month. There are 2 non-competitive procurements in the green pages in the amount of $4,155,000. The committee recommends these procurements, and I'd like to move them.
All those in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
There are 4 competitive procurements in the yellow pages in the amount of $50,446,000. The committee recommends these procurements, and I'd like to move them.
All those in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
There's 1 ratification in the pink pages in the amount of $33,000. The committee recommends them, and I'd like to move it.
All in favor? Any opposed? So moved. You, Andrew, I can see you want to say something.
I just had a question on that one, but it wouldn't have stopped the vote. Who would ordinarily do an investigation of a derailment? Do we normally hire an outside person to do that?
It depends. You want to, if there's a complicated answer to that, Helene, you want to come up and give it or shout it so somebody can hear it?
I'd be happy to brief you on it. We do have an in-house
So that everybody didn't hear it. Normally, we do it internally, but this time, because of the complications of the issue, we wanted to make sure we got it right, so we hired an outside person to do a scientific investigation to make sure we had it right. Okay?
Very good. Okay. Next is Long Island Bus. There is one non-competitive procurement in the green pages in the amount of $45,000, $275. The committee recommends this procurement, and I'd like to move it.
All in favor? Any opposed? So moved.
There are no competitive procurements and no ratifications. This concludes the Long Island Committee report, and it gives me great pleasure to be working with Helena as acting executive director, and I look forward to a wonderful relationship which we've had not only in Long Island Bus, but in Nassau County, and back in the Long Island Committee, and now as acting executive director. Good luck, and you have my total support.
Thank you, David. Jim Sidora, could we have the Metro North report, please?
4% on time in the month of April. In addition, this month, we've also received our final fare operating ratio for 2008, which was 55.9%. This was above our target of 53.1%. Last Wednesday in Washington, D.C., the E.H. Harriman Memorial Awards Institute, under the auspices of the Association of American Railroads, awarded Metro North a certificate of commendation for its reduction in employee injuries from 2007 to 2008. The prize, one of the most prestigious in the industry, recognized Metro North Railroad as most improved in terms of safety among railroads its size. As chairman of the Metro North Committee, I want to thank Metro North President Howard Permit and all the Metro North employees for their continuing attention to detail and teamwork. As a result of this effort, from 2007 to 2008, Metro North Railroad achieved a 30% decrease in lost time injuries from 71 to 51, and the Federal Railroad Administration reportable injuries that require medical attention beyond first aid dropped 33% during the same period, from 179 to 122. Congratulations to everyone. Last Saturday, service began with the opening of the Metro North New York Yankee East 53rd Street station on the Hudson Line. We had 6,800 customers take the train to the game on Saturday and Sunday from all three lines. I want to congratulate Metro North for building this new station on time, in a record 24 months, and on budget. There are 9 procurements today totaling $3,673,548. Of that number, there are 7 non-competitive procurements in the amount of $2,802,489. The committee recommended these procurements, and I move them.
Second, please.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So moved.
There's one competitive procurement in the amount of $671,059. The committee recommended this procurement, and I moved it.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
There is one ratification in the amount of $200,000. The committee recommends it, and I move it.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
This concludes the Metro North Railroad Committee report.
Thank you, Jim. David, you're back up. Bridge and Tunnels.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, again. Bridges and Tunnel Committee met this month. There are no competitive procurements or ratifications. There are 3 competitive procurements in the yellow pages in the amount of $1,756,000. The committee recommends these procurements, and I'd like to move them.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report for Bridges and Tunnels.
Thank you, David. Now we have capital construction. Nancy, please.
I'd like to present these and vote on them all at once at the end. There's 1 non-competitive procurement, 2 competitive procurements, and 2 ratifications. I move these.
Second, please. All in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
Regarding the real estate portion of the committee meeting, I recommend a total of 13, we recommended a total of 13 real estate items. There's one I'd like to note, and that is a license modification for 8 stations to permit the sale of New York lottery tickets at 13 non-platform newsstands in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bronx, and Queens. The committee recommended these items, and I move them.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved.
That's it.
Thank you, Nancy. The law requires that the FMTAC Board hold an annual meeting to advise the Board of the FMTACC's activities and to obtain the Board's approval of the FMTAC's actual loss reserve certification. Today's Board meeting is the FMTAC annual meeting. The FMTAC materials have been distributed separately to the Board and were presented to the Finance Committee. May I have a motion to approve the actuarial loss reserve certification?
I make the motion.
Second. All in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call for a motion to go into executive session for the Board to conduct an executive session to discuss the matters falling within the enumerated purposes of Section 105 of the Board's open meeting law, specifically a matter leading to the appointment and employment, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a person or corporation, and a matter concerning the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of lease of real property, publicity concerning which would substantially affect the value thereof. May I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, executive session, guys.
Jackets.
But first, I think we need to know what happened in terms of Helena and the CEO.
She was voted in. She is now the interim CEO until there's a...
The board did an executive
Yep.
session and
That was one of the things. That's right.
Well, I'd like to ask both of you then what your expectations are for the next several weeks in terms of Helena. Have you talked to the governor's office about the possibility of her being a candidate to take the job on and also, the same question to you.
Let me say I'm very delighted with the board's action today. It's an honor to be able to serve with Dale Hemmerdinger. The governor has a selection process in place, and it's his prerogative. Wherever it takes us, it takes us.
Yes, but have you discussed that specifically with them? Are you now a candidate for that job?
At this point, I'm the interim CEO.
And I'd say the exact same thing. They're in there. They've got a process going, and where it leads them, we don't know. Hiya. What part of it would you like me to explain?
Exactly what the problem is.
Well, the problem is as severe as somebody could be hurt. There are pieces of rubber and wood that need to be replaced. And the IG did his job following up on something that the transit people were supposed to do. They weren't doing it fast enough. The IG engaged Howard Roberts and his people, and they've got an agreement going. And the IG did exactly what he was supposed to do, which was make sure that we were doing our job. And we weren't doing it fast enough, and now we're going to do it faster.
What was the main problem with the inspections that weren't taking place? In other words, were they writing that there weren't dangers?
Come on, let's get the folks involved. Come on, both of you. Yeah, don't trip. You can bones answer this. We're going to start. You start.
I think that the problem is that this has been a problem that has been around for a number of years. I think you had too many different entities of transit looking at this issue. You had track workers who were doing inspections pursuant to the capital plan that were looking at tracks and not necessarily looking up at these platform edges that were deteriorating. You had a reporting issue and definition issue of exactly what is a safety defect, and despite the best intentions, when you have maintenance people involved, you have track inspectors involved, part of this job was also to be done by the station managers. All these reports would come in, and I believe there was a lack of clarity and consistency in being able to identify these defects. And there had been a succession over the years of programs to deal with this after each one of these incidents. The latest one in early of '08, and what happened is President Roberts did react to it, put a new plan in place, but unfortunately we took a look at it that summer and found that many of them still had that fundamental problem from below. The issue of the inspections, the reporting, and the definitions. After we did our inspections and found many poor boards still there, I sat down with President Roberts, went over it with his top staff, and he has now developed a comprehensive program to deal with it that involves training and a lot of other issues and putting executive and management oversight. I am very pleased at the response that he gave to our report, but given the history of this issue over the years and obviously the safety implication, both President Roberts and I have decided that I will continue to monitor it and do spot inspections on these platform edges over the next 6 months as we move forward. One that's danger to the public in terms of a split. I believe you could see photographs. I believe President Roberts can probably address that issue better.
Yeah, what had happened over the years is that people basically had taken the deterioration of the platform edges as just sort of the environment. And by the time that it became a problem when the young man stepped on the board and fell onto the track area, we were really in very, very bad shape. Our response, and at that point in time, the sole inspection was the station managers did an inspection, turned in a report. Given the conditions that we found, obviously those reports were not reacted to. So our immediate thing was to put in 2 more levels of inspection. We had the station manager supervisor inspection. We asked the track walkers who pass through the stations twice a week to look at the edges because they can see underneath, they can see the structure. We also asked the structure maintainers to do a comprehensive inspection twice a year. What we didn't do was go back and look very closely at what the station managers and supervisors were doing. And that's where the IG found the problems. He was completely right, and we now have a procedure in place so that all 3 inspections are taking place the way that they ought to. The other thing is the problem was so comprehensive that normally what the procedure said was when it was something was reported, it needed to be fixed within 60 days. Again, nobody was doing that. So what we did was go to a project that is going to take 18 months. The first thing we did was go out and get what we thought all the pours were and bring those to fairs. And now what we're doing is taking all the fairs so that by December of 2009, everything will be in good condition. The reason it takes so long, my original thought was we could do this in 6 months. You can't work on them without either stopping service or installing flagging. So that means either there's no service and people work full time, or every time a train comes along, they have to quit work, back away, clear up, and let the train go by. And so that's why it's taking that long.
Thank you, Howard. Okay.
For Helena, here from Fast a union representative talked today about the closing of the Long Island Railroad ticket offices. Is there any hope of rolling those back and keeping them open? And just your thoughts on this.
Well, I thought Artie Maratia spoke, right from the heart. Those ticket windows are an important part of our customer ambiance. I've always recognized that our ticket window agents, are sometimes the first face of the railroad that a customer will come in contact with. That being said, we did go through a very long and difficult period to get a financial rescue legislation through. The funding that came through provides some relief, but not the full relief. So we are looking at the financial targets that we still need to come within, and it is likely that I will not be able to preserve the level of customer service that I have currently.
If I could ask for a little bit more clarification. I heard two things. One, the IG seemed to say that there were too many messages and there wasn't enough priority given to some of the messages that were really urgent, and the other being that Mr. Roberts put into place additional inspections. I guess I thought the problem was that there were too many inspections going on and there wasn't a clear enough sense of priority. Can you explain, were the station agents not picking this up, or was it not working its way up the chain?
The problem was the station agents very well may have been the supervisors and managers picking it up. It was simply when they put the request in, the work was not getting done, and obviously you can have as many inspections as you want. And as long as there is not follow-up on those inspections, then you're basically wasting your time.
And then just can you clarify how this new procedure will rectify that?
Well, what we've done is we have this, again, 18-month project. We went out and tried to deal with the worst of what was out there, and then we worked our way through all the platforms in the entire system. And repaired those, brought those up to a state of good repair. But that means that we are here at the end of May. It is still going to be until December 2009 before we get every platform edge in the system to where it ought to be.
I can just add to that. Having the different units doing the inspections, what President Roberts is now committing to is to getting them all at the same table to get clear what is a safety defect. Because many of these reports did go through, but you had one inspector calling it a pour and another one calling it a fair, and they're looking at the exact same condition, the exact same picture, the same rubbing board. So there was an inconsistency in the characterization of rubbing boards that were potentially dangerous that was not working their way up because these people never sat around the table. And part of the program that President Roberts has asserted will be followed through on is to bring all those people at the table undergoing the training necessary so that they can have a honest characterization of that defect as poor, and then the system being in place to immediately fix it.
Thank you, guys.